I don't really know what I want this video to be about, nor do I realize just how I'm going to get to that conclusion, whatever it may be. But realistically, what I wanted to talk about was last night's Game 3 between the Oilers and the Kings, because once again, we saw ourselves sort of this storybook ending where the LA Kings sort of, do I want to say squeak out with the victory? Okay, let's say it like that. They squeaked out with the victory, mostly due to a whole bunch of discourse about referees, about high-sticking calls, about what's a penalty, what's not, and this is sort of what I hate the most about hockey, when it gets to a point where all we can talk about is the officiating and the way the game was called. No more is it about the overtime goals, no more is it about the athleticism, no more is it about Connor McDavid, but instead it's about the policing and rules. And that sucks. This has been sort of a problem the past few days, especially in the playoffs here. You've got the Toronto games, you've got the Wes McCaulleys of the world, you've got the Oilers and the Kings getting screwed over either way by players diving and penalties being called and high stick reviews being non-conclusive. This is sort of the ugly side of what happens in a game where the referees have so much control. And I feel like gone are the days where you had this reputation where, okay, it's playoff hockey, so anything goes, you can be more physical, you could dish out bigger hits, you could be a little bit more of a pest because the referees are going to lay off the whistle. Nah, it doesn't feel like that anymore. Now it feels like the referees are calling everything, and when things get called, it's funny because 10 minutes later, when something similar happens, they don't call it. The consistency is baffling at this time in the playoffs, and I don't know what's the real way to proceed in thinking about it. You know, we always say that the referees should be given their own spotlight, you know, their chance to talk to the media and answer questions, just so everybody in the hockey world is able to get a piece of their minds and acknowledge and understand where things are going when games are being officiated. But no, we don't get that as fans. We don't get the right to pry into the minds of these referees and see what they see out there on the ice. Instead, we have to rely on video clips and things that we see with our own eyes and judgment that may not be all too accurate, or maybe it's a little bit too accurate, or we get extra video angles that aren't shown to the referees because then we get ourselves video clips that show that Gabe Vilardi did touch the puck with a high stick, and then it wasn't called, and it wasn't conclusive according to the referees and the people that were on the phone with Toronto. Edmonton kind of got screwed over here. And I'm not going to go out there and say that just because I had the Oilers winning my playoff bracket against the Bruins, but realistically, watching what happened last night and seeing what was called, seeing what wasn't called, it was very, very disheartening. And I'm not even an Oilers fan. You know, I'm just a guy who likes hockey. I'm a guy who likes Connor McDavid doing Connor McDavid-like things, getting 2 goals in the span of like 2 minutes or whatever it is, on brilliant snipes in the exact same place on the ice. Firstly, those are both power play goals, and then the Kings responded with another power play goal like seconds later. How in the heck are there so many gosh darn power plays? Like, I get it, on paper you might say that there were worthy enough infractions to commit power plays and give those chances, but come on. How in the world are there 3 power plays in the span of like 4 or 5 minutes of game time? It wasn't that bad. And then you have the way the game ended, and it's all leaving a sour taste in people's mouths, and Oilers fans are pissed off because they feel like they got screwed over twice in a row. In Game 1, sure, I gave the Kings the benefit of the doubt because the Oilers choked away the lead, they got a goal disallowed because it was a high stick, and then Desharnais took a penalty. Okay, I'm going to go out there and give the Kings the benefit of the doubt there, but in this Game 3, it's tough to watch and say definitively, yeah, no, the Kings deserved to win that game. They deserved it. That was LA's game to lose there, folks. The Oilers didn't run away with it, nah. LA was just a better team. And when you combine all this with the bigger conversation that everybody seems to be having about refereeing nowadays, it's difficult to really think about the playoffs in the same way that we had a few years ago. And it becomes even more infuriating when you acknowledge all the things that don't get called. The LA Kings were diving left, right, and center last night. Even Kevin Bieksa called this out on the Sportsnet panel saying, hey, what are y'all doing? Like, some of these replays of hits that aren't even really hits or light pieces of contact where the LA guy gets touched and then he goes flying over the ice. Like, that's even more disheartening to see. Some of these get called, some of these don't get called, some of these are for LA. Like, dude, something's got to give here when it comes to the way these players are approaching the game. And then you have all the other plays that don't get called. And like, let's say yesterday's game, Carolina versus New York. Who is it? Marty Necas, who gets placed into the Islanders bench. He got hit into the bench, but yeah. And then he punches a guy on the bench while he's getting up. The play isn't reviewed, the play isn't called or whatever, no penalty. Like, I don't know, man. It's really difficult to have your faith and put it all into the refereeing this season in the playoffs. And I know I'm kind of adding to the problem by making a video just going over refereeing and giving my thoughts about it, but it gets equally frustrating just seeing all the whining and social media discourse about the referees are bad and this is that and we should all be complaining and we need to see the referee interviews just so we could get this off our chests because that's never going to happen. Like, I don't know, am I the only one that's pissed off about it, but I'm also pissed off about seeing people talking about it? Like, I get it, refereeing has been bad, but it's so disheartening to see it get to a point where it's so bad that that's all we can talk about. Because I want to talk about the goals, I want to talk about the Connor McDavid snipe show, I want to talk about the scoring chances, I want to talk about the saves, I want to talk about the Seth Jarvises of the world making goal line saves, I want to talk about the Islanders scoring the fastest 4 goals in playoff history. There are a lot of crazy things to talk about, but instead everybody's focused on the refereeing because they've been doing such a poor job. And it's just an overall cycle of disappointment and people getting pissed off, and I don't really know where else there is to go with this commentary, so I guess I'm going to end this video off by saying this. If there's anything else that you think we need to discuss in regards to calls that were missed, calls that shouldn't have been calls, or calls that decided a game, let me know in the comments all your opinions about that and whether or not there's anything that I missed. I just kind of went off the top of my head here about things that I remembered enough to talk about in a video that I recorded just a few minutes after waking up in the morning, so I don't really know if I did the topic justice. But if you want to, let me know in the comments all your opinions about the status of refereeing in the postseason and whether or not it is worth making a video about. If it is, then great. Let me know in the comments all your opinions, and if it isn't, then okay, I feel like I just added on to the ever-growing conversation that doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon about how refereeing is at an all-time low and how it gets worse every year, but this time around it feels even worse. So, yeah, if you're an Oilers fan, let me know in the comments all your opinions as well about the call, the high-sticking. Was it high-sticked? Was it not high-sticked? Should it have not been a goal? How are you feeling heading into Game 4? The Kings now have a 2-1 series lead. If you're a fan of the Leafs or the Lightning, what are your thoughts on the officiating in that series? If you're a fan of the Islanders, what are your thoughts on Necas punching one of your guys on the bench and seemingly getting away with it? Yeah, there are a lot of instances this playoff run that are up for debate, and it's only been 3 games in each of these series, so that's kind of disheartening. But either way, thoughts in the comment section below, all your opinions about this subject. I hope you enjoyed this video. Juraj, and bye.